We've been watching Taylor Frankie Paul basically crash out almost daily at the wee hours of 3 and 4 a.m. on her social media sites. And despite the fact that many onlookers have basically begged her to please take her healing offline, that all of this posting is only going to be detrimental, not just to her and her active custody battle, but to her kids as a whole. Now, most recently, the DCFS has filed a claim against her, and it's basically blown up the reality television side of the internet. There are allegations flying in all directions. There are interpretations that are incredibly misguided. So I thought today I would read through the entire filing with you, share my insight, even though I'm not a lawyer, but hopefully offer the opportunity for anyone who might be a lawyer to correct me in the comments or offer their insight as well. Now, both sides of this situation, Dakota Mortensen and Taylor Frankie Paul, have made statements regarding this. And in the opinion of many people on the internet, it seems like Taylor Frankie Paul is kind of turning a blind eye to it, not taking it as seriously. In my opinion, I know I've been watching her for several months and I've seen how she's been reacting to the custody battle. And as someone whose parents went through a very nasty custody battle for several years in my childhood, I feel like the way she's going about this is honestly misguided and could really hurt her chances of getting her children back. She already has very limited visitation with her son ever, and it seems as though too, as of recent custody hearings, that she's not even utilizing all of her time with him. So it's very confusing to see someone A be fighting so hard for her children, insisting on bringing that battle to the general public, saying disparaging remarks about both of her exes who have both filed restraining orders or temporary restraining orders against her, and she still shows very similar signs of combativeness, of jealousy towards her ex Dakota, and to all around the same behaviors we've seen from her for a very long time, where she gets very explosive very quickly. Now, I want to read the new DCFS filing in its entirety to you today, hopefully to bring all of us a lot more clarity to this situation. And since I am a channel that covers cults and true crime and overall controversy, I thought this would be a really great example to discover how a Mormon person might be misguided by the therapists or type of wellness coaching they might get. Because oftentimes people in the Mormon church are very hesitant to seek out true medical support, whether that be for mental health or otherwise. So it's been bringing this question to the surface. Is Taylor really getting the right kind of help? She claims she has a therapist, but in the very next breath, it becomes her life coach. Are they the same people? Are they two different people? On other comments, she's seen saying that, well, her therapist knows the truth and her therapist knows her personally. So she really knows how Taylor copes. But if you know anything about therapy ethics and counseling ethics, they're not supposed to work with people that they already know. The first time I had an experience in my new city with a therapist was a friend of mine, and I said, "Hey, I really think I need to seek therapy." And she explicitly said, "Well, I can't work with you because I know you on a personal level, and that would make it so I have a bias towards you, and I might not be able to offer you the best help, but I'm going to recommend someone who can because I don't want to breach that ethics." It's a code that therapists have to follow. So I think knowing all of this, it's a very, very interesting situation. So, with all of that said, let's jump into the documents. I'm really excited for you guys to read through this with me. And obviously, please share your thoughts as we move along. So, again, this is going to be the official filing, and I am going to go ahead and get us all acquainted with everybody involved. Richard K. Clark, Assistant Attorney General, hereby alleges that the above-named children are within the age of juvenile court jurisdiction and that the above-named children fall within the provisions of Utah Code 78A-6-1032A. This petition is based upon the following allegations. Ever Mortensen is a 2-year-old child born blank and her other daughter is an 8-year-old female child, and her son is a 6-year-old male. Upon information and belief, the children were born in Utah. For the time relevant, the children have resided in Salt Lake County, Utah. Two. Just want to make sure you guys can see this and follow along with me. The mother of the children is Taylor Frankie Paul. The mother resides at a safeguarded address. The father of Ever Mortensen is Dakota Bo Mortensen, born January 27th, 1993. Paternity was established by judicial order in the 3rd District Court. Mr. Mortensen resides at a safeguarded address. The father of Indy and Ocean is Tate Robert Paul, born in October. Paternity was established through marriage. Mr. Paul resides in a safeguarded address. The family has the following history with DCFS. February 2023. The mother was reported for DV related to CA of Indy. The mother and Mr. Mortensen were in a physical altercation, and the mother threw a metal chair at Mr. Mortensen, causing injuries. Indy was present during the altercation. February 2026. The mother was supported for DV related CA of Ever, and Mr. Mortensen was supported for failure to protect. April 2026. The mother and Mr. Mortensen began participating in a voluntary case with the division. On February 23rd, 2026, CPS received a referral for domestic DV, I have to say for YouTube purposes, related CA. DCFS supported the mother for DV related CA of Ever, and DCFS supported Mr. Mortensen for failure to protect. So essentially, these are all of the instances where an argument between Taylor and Dakota had escalated, and they're essentially both being held liable. This is essentially saying that, yes, Taylor was the primary aggressor, and Dakota failed to get out of the situation and bring his children with him, or at least that's my interpretation of it. On February 23rd, 2026, law enforcement responded to a call about a DV incident, which happened the day prior on February 22nd, 2026. Just trying to get to my, oh no, I'm trying to get to my, here we go. Next page. All right. Mortensen and the mother were in bed together with their 2-year-old son, Ever. Mr. Mortensen and the mother began to argue, which escalated, and the mother became physically aggressive, choking Mr. Mortensen, shoving him into a window, hitting him, and screaming. Mr. Mortensen called 911, however, and he reported that the mother talked him into lying to the dispatcher. Mr. Mortensen subsequently took Ever and left the residence. Later that same day, Mr. Mortensen returned to the mother's residence. Another altercation took place, and the mother took Mr. Mortensen's cell phone and threw it against a wall, causing a hole in the drywall. Mr. Mortensen then attempted to leave the home, and the mother tried to stop him. As Mr. Mortensen left the residence, the mother climbed into the passenger side of his vehicle, screamed at him, kicked his vehicle's center console touchscreen, and punched his vehicle's rearview mirror. The mother began to hit Mr. Mortensen and squeezed his face, at which point Mr. Mortensen shoved the mother off of him, and she hit her head on the vehicle's center console screen. Mr. Mortensen subsequently took the mother back to her home. The mother later texted Mr. Mortensen that her nose was bleeding. Shortly after dropping the mother off, Mr. Mortensen returned again to the mother's home. Now, this is the evening where I believe she got into his truck and actually left her children at home. And it might also allegedly be that same night that Dakota was asking her for some intimacy. Now, a lot of this is stuff I've discovered from either watching the trials or the hearings rather myself, or following along on Reddit and seeing what other people are piecing together. So I just want to reiterate that my sources have, for the most part, been court filings and watching the actual hearings myself. And then, of course, seeing the aftermath and watching Taylor kind of blow up after it. Now, it's unknown to the division where the children were during the previous altercation in the home and in the vehicle. So that's why I said it's alleged. And to my belief, I believe she left her children at her home while she went into that truck with him. On March 16th, 2026, Mr. Mortensen and the mother agreed to work collaboratively with the division. On March 23rd, 2026, DCFS spoke with Indy, the child, the daughter. Indy reported that she changes Ever's diaper in the morning. So Indy, who I believe is 8, changes Ever's diaper in the morning and prepares a bottle for him. She stated that the mother and Mr. Mortensen often fight and scream at each other. She further reported that it makes her feel sad when her mother and Mr. Mortensen fight. On March 19th, 2026, Mr. Mortensen filed a request for protective order against the mother. A temporary restraining order was granted on March 23rd, 2026. On April 6, 2026, DCFS held 2 team meetings, one for the mother and one for Mr. Mortensen. DCFS explained the purpose of a collaborative case and all parties agreed to services with DCFS. Additionally, DCFS created a safety plan with both parents. On May 1st, 2026, DCFS conducted a home visit with the mother. Now, this is all going to be very important and a lot of it will be new. The mother reported that her life coach, Carrie, was the only reason she was still alive. She further wanted Carrie to conduct her assessments for DV and mental health treatment needs. However, DCFS informed the mother that Carrie was not qualified to do the assessment. Additionally, during the home visit with the mother, she became upset while looking up messages on social media and stated that she was leaving to go get food. As she was leaving, she reported that she did not have any unaliving ideation, but the caseworkers should know who killed her if she ends up dead because she felt that no one believed her. The mother left DCFS alone in her residence, and DCFS had to lock up her house after she stormed out. Now, I think this is a great example of how Taylor Frankie Paul is really, really unable to stay grounded in an elevated situation. Now, from my experience, and to be completely transparent, I was a very young child, so I don't personally remember being assessed by a third party. But there were third-party assessments during my personal custody case between my mother and my father. It essentially meant that a representative would come and observe how my father was raising us and then compare that to how my mother was raising us and take notes and point out red flags. And so obviously, one would think that if a DCFS representative is coming to your home to see how you conduct yourself, you're going to be on your best behavior, right? So the fact that this is Taylor's best behavior, this is how she responds when she's told no. She has been telling everybody on the internet, anyone who would listen, even on her television show, that she has a therapist, that she's working with a therapist. And a lot of netizens have been questioning, like, okay, well, you're Mormon. Oftentimes Mormons don't seek out an actually registered, licensed therapist or counselor, someone who could maybe give you a proper diagnosis. A lot of Mormons kind of veer away from any kind of diagnosis like that. And if you do need counseling, they appoint a Mormon specific affiliate who is a part of that church and that organization. So it's going to be a very skewed point of view. So the fact that Taylor is wanting her life coach, who, as far as I know, according to this filing, is not a registered therapist, somebody who could actually give her the tools she needs to help. that's glaring evidence to me that Taylor is perhaps not taking all of this as seriously as she should. I think that Taylor thinks she's taking it seriously. I think Taylor is not able to fully grasp the seriousness of what's going on right now. So, the very fact that she is starting to get escalated while these DCFS personnel are at her home and she's actually leaving her home is shocking. Now, we're going to watch how Taylor reacts to this on her Instagram feed shortly. But just before we get to that, I want to share that Taylor basically says that, like, well, it's a coping mechanism for her to go sit in her car, and all she was doing was leaving to go sit in the car for a second to, like, get regrounded before she went back in and talked to DCFS. And also her house locks by itself, so, like, they shouldn't have been worried about her house leaving or her house locking. But I think anyone would be reading this and look at this situation and think, "Okay, wow, these people are literally coming to your home to assess if it's a safe place for a child to live, and you're storming out because your life coach can't give you the mental health assessment that is required for you to gain custody of your children again. Like, do you want more than 8 hours of supervised visits a week or not? Do you want to have more time with your kids or not? Do you want this all to be over or not?" It's very, very confusing. And I know that now she has more time with her kids, which, is good, but it's also calls into question, like, what is really going on? Does she need more help? Like, it's kind of teetering on this fact of, okay, we're seeing all the evidence and we're seeing the behavior, and it's super, super concerning to a lot of us who are watching, whether or not you're a fan of Taylor or not. It's concerning behavior. But a lot of her fans are propping it up as empowerment. She's speaking out, she's sharing her truth, she's speaking out on behalf of all DV survivors. But I just don't think that that is necessarily fair, because in a lot of this, it appears, and of course we could learn new information, it appears that she is the aggressor. But I think that there is something else personally going on with her where she's unable to really grasp the seriousness the and just how big this situation is. I think if she did pause and got off the internet and stopped getting this confirmation bias from her fans, she might be able to reflect a little bit more. And I think it's just grossly concerning to a lot of us that she seems unable to and incapable of doing that. Now, on or about May 11th, 2026, the mother completed her mental health and domestic V assessments. On May 11th, DCFS spoke with Mr. Mortensen, and he stated that the pickup and drop-offs with Ever and the mother have been very difficult on Ever. Additionally, on May 15th, 2026, during a home visit with the mother, she reported to the division that Ever has been having tantrums during pickup and drop-offs with her, and it has been traumatic for her to watch. Furthermore, DCFS observed Ever running into the room crying and calling for his mother. However, the division observed Ever run into his maternal aunt and nanny, Aspen, instead of his mother. I just want to read that one more time. The division observed that Ever would run to his aunt and nanny, Aspen, this is Taylor's sister, instead of his mother. And that actually seemed to upset the mother because she was wanting to seek comfort from him, and her aunt got it instead. So on or about May 14th, 2026, Mr. Mortensen completed his mental health and domestic V assessments. On May 19th, 2026, DCFS spoke with Mr. Mortensen's therapist. She indicated that she will be working with him on the recommendations from his mental health and DV assessments. She further stated that she has already had 4 meetings with Mr. Mortensen and recommended that they meet weekly going forward. On June 2nd, 2026, CPS received a referral alleging non-supervision and physical neglect of Indy Paul and Ocean Paul against the mother. The division unsupported these allegations. On June 2nd, 2026, DCFS completed an unannounced home visit to the mother's home. The mother said that she had just started seeing a therapist, only as of June. So the life coach from back in what, March, April, that she wanted to conduct her mental health assessment, not a therapist. She's only been seeing a therapist for about a little over a month, maybe 6 weeks. No, probably closer to a month. On June 18th, 2026, DCFS completed a home visit with the mother. The mother reported that she had been seeing her therapist and has had 3 appointments so far. The mother stated she feels as though the sessions are beneficial. Okay, that's good. Especially remember that as we watch Taylor Frankie Paul's video. Now, during the first 20 minutes of the June 18th, 2026 home visit, the caseworker could smell clear indicators that Ever had soiled his diaper. When the mother tried to assist, Ever was resistant and defiant and ran towards his aunt and nanny, Aspen. So I think there is a clear picture being painted here. Later, we're going to hear Taylor talk about how if you ask any of her children, they're going to choose to live at mom's. They're going to choose to live at mom's. The thing about children making kinds of decisions like that is it's very, very tricky because obviously a child is going to love both their parents, right? A child is unable to determine who the fun parent is and who the parent who might be a little more strict, who might have them into more of a routine, and they're not going to understand that that caretaker role can feel mundane and not as fun. There's this idea of like, I know I had it growing up where, my mom would make sure that we ate healthy food and we got to our school activities. We got to school on time. She was signing us up for tutors. She was signing us up for things, we as kids, we didn't really want to do and we didn't want to eat. We didn't want to eat squash and broccoli at dinner. My mom would make us eat our healthy options at dinner. Whereas my dad was taking us to Carl's Jr. and we were getting, cinnamon rolls for breakfast every time and eating cereal and eating frozen pizza and macaroni. And like, we never had to he would pick us up for the fun weekends after school. We would go get ice cream every time after school and like whatever we wanted, we got. And so, yeah, as a child, you're like, I want to go live with that parent. And meanwhile, the parent that's actually giving you structure, the parent that's actually trying to help with your development as a tiny human as a whole gets kind of pushed aside. I say all of this not to shame my mother or my father. I am very grateful for the experiences both people showed me. I'm glad I had the upbringing I did. I think it has turned me into the person I am today. I'm just trying to illustrate the fact that I, as a child, was gonna pick my fun parent, right? I had no idea that my mom was contributing to my entire developmental future. And my dad got to be the fun guy on the weekends. Of course, I would have picked him. And I think something similar could be happening here is, maybe Taylor thinks she's the fun parent. Maybe Taylor genuinely thinks that she cares more than the fathers of her children. But at the end of the day, this is a 4-year-old we're talking about. He cannot decide which parent is best for his development as a whole. It would just be an impossible mountain for this little boy to climb. Same with the other children, right? So, when DCFS addressed concerns with the lack of progress in the child and family plan and the additional concerns regarding her other children, the mother stated that she's being treated unfairly because of her status. I think because of her status, we all want to see her succeed because she's going to be an example for single mothers everywhere. Furthermore, when DCFS suggested the family's first program intervention, the mother became escalated and dysregulated. Ocean, who was in another room of the home coloring, heard his mother crying and told her to take deep breaths and that everything was going to be okay. So, Ocean is her son, and there's a term that you hear a lot, especially in like the TikTok mental health space, called the parentification of a child. This is when the child is essentially taking care of the parent or has to take care of the other children because maybe the parents are overwhelmed. They had a lot of children and don't have enough resources or time to take care of them all. And these younger or the older children are getting parentified to take care of the younger children. This little boy is telling his mother, take deep breaths, calm down. But what I think a lot of people are missing is that it should never be the child's place or role to have to take care of their parents emotionally. I think it's great to be transparent with your children. I think it's good for boys to see their fathers cry and understand why they're crying. I think that emotional intelligence is so important to the human experience. I'm not saying that a child should not be empathetic like it sounds like Ocean is. I am saying that the idea that a child has to notices these signs in their parents so often that they've had to kind of be the one that walks on eggshells and offer up support to their parent, I don't believe is always necessarily fair to the child themselves. On June 19th, 2026, DCFS requested that the mother sign a release of information for her therapist. On June 24th, 2026, DCFS followed up with the mother's therapist, who refused to speak with DCFS as the therapist did not have a valid release of information allowing her to do so. On June 25th, DCFS conducted an unannounced home visit at the mother's home. The division followed up about the release of information for the mother's therapist. The mother stated again that she would sign a release of information. On July 1st, the mother sent the division signed releases of information allowing the division to speak with her therapist. On July 2nd, the mother called the caseworker and stated that she is not doing well and felt exhausted due to the ongoing custody disputes with both fathers. The caseworker reminded the mother of the scheduled home visit and child and family team meeting the following week. The mother stated she would not be available for the child and family team meeting or the home visit as she was going to be out of town. This is very, very much a red flag. Your children and their well-being, especially during a custody dispute, should be your absolute top priority. You should be canceling your trip and probably not scheduling a trip if you know these home visits are being conducted, if you know there's an active DCFS investigation. These people could take your children and these children could be homed by the state, okay? This is a serious, serious thing. And for her to be like, well, I'm actually going to be out of town. I can't be there for the family meeting that we scheduled. Do you not remember you agreed to a family safety assessment? Did you forget? Come on. On July 8th, 2026, DCFS was able to speak with the mother's therapist. The therapist stated that she and the mother had not started meaningful treatment. The mother's therapist expressed concerns about the mother's lack of investment in treatment. The mother's therapist stated that the mother meets with her, but that the therapist feels it is because the mother is forced to do so. The mother's therapist further stated that she is engaged in difficult conversations with the mother where they talk about taking therapy seriously. The mother has expressed frustration to her therapist, stating that she does not have the time to attend therapy because she's very busy with work. If you wanted to, you would. These are your children that you claim to care about. And what is your work? What is your work? Complaining on the internet to your cult-like followers? Is that your work? Because nobody will film with you anymore. You got to pay out for The Bachelorette even though it didn't air. And you have a handful of brand deals. All I've personally seen you do online is either disparage your exes or complain about the mistreatment. And then maybe post a little bit about your children. You're combative, you're fighting. If your work is just arguing with the other members of Mom Talk, with the other people who are continuing to film Secret Lives of Mormon Wives without you, mind you, is that your work? If your work is posting a video every day, and I get it, as someone that makes YouTube videos and is really, really bad at cross-posting them to other platforms, because I'm honestly terrible at that, right? I'll admit that. But it does take time. But it doesn't take so much time out of your day that you can't go to therapy. And I'm not tooting my own horn at all, but I work a full-time job. I'm an actor. I create videos like this. I spend at least, 10 hours a week on my own content. I post comedy content on a different Instagram platform I have. You have time to go to therapy. I wake up at 5:30 every morning so I can go to the gym, get some work done for my channel, and then start my job at 9 a.m. And then I work my full-time job until 6 p.m. And then sometimes I film a video or edit a video or research a video. You have time to go to therapy, Taylor. You don't have a full-time job. You're a full-time content creator. It's just heartbreaking when you think about it. It just makes it hard to side with Taylor because put in the effort. Put in the effort. If this is you putting in effort, you need to really evaluate what effort means to you. Now, on July 9th, DCFS held a meeting with Mr. Mortensen. Mr. Mortensen stated that he has intake with the Children's Center on July 14th. He further stated that he is meeting with his therapist weekly to address DV and mental health. On July 9th, 2026, DCFS held a team meeting with the mother. The mother stated that she has her intake with the Children's Center on July 15th. The mother further reported that she does not feel she is getting the support or help she needs from her therapist and stated she is going to see another therapist through Alpine. When the division confronted the mother about lack of progress with the child and family plan, in addition, and the additional concerns regarding her mental health and emotional instability, the mother appeared dysregulated. The mother was unwilling to take accountability for her role in the DV incident and continued to blame Mr. Mortensen for his role in the incident. The mother did not see how any of the concerns are impacting her children and was focused solely on how things impacted her. I just don't understand truly. I don't even want children. I'm child free by choice simply because I've never felt that pull to have children. I've never felt that, maternal instinct or desire. And, I hear this and I'm still heartbroken for the children. If I was one of her kids and I grew up and I thought, okay, I know my mom, is a famous person. I want to kind of look up all of the stuff that happened because my mom said things and then my dad said things and I don't know who to believe. I think it happens in every broken home. There's a lot of things that I believed growing up that turned out to not be true. And then I learned more information and it does cause strains in your parental relationships. It just does. And the children are going to be able to read all of this. This is all open to the public at this point. And if I read this as her child and I knew the upbringing I had, I would genuinely be like, does my mom not care about me? Does she not care? Now, the mother has the following criminal history. August 2023, plea in ambience for AA involved DV, third-degree felony. Mr. Paul has no relevant criminal history. Mr. Mortensen has no relevant criminal history. Upon information and belief, 1, no parent is a member of a federally recognized Indian tribe and the child is not eligible for membership in a federally recognized Indian tribe. Therefore, the child is not an Indian child as defined by the Indian Child Welfare Act, and the provisions of ICWA do not apply to this case. The mother and Mr. Mortensen have an open custody and support action in the 3rd District Court. Mr. Paul and the mother have an ongoing custody support action in the 3rd District Court. Other than this case, the division's knowledge, there are no custody matters pending in any other courts. Based on the above allegations, the State of Utah Division of Child and Family Services respectfully moves the court to find that the above named children are A-worded, neglected, or a dependent children pursuant to Utah Code. 2, the above named children are within the jurisdiction of the juvenile court. Based on the above findings, the State of Utah Division of Child and Family Services. And I think that this is heartbreaking and it's huge. They're basically asking the court to find that these children are being harmed. We've covered a lot of cases like this on this channel. Several of them actually connected to the Mormon Church and how children are raised. And if you think of the Ruby Frankie case, you wish that this had happened for them. You wish the DCFS had gotten involved. The Ruby Frankie situation. It would have been great if something like this had been able to happen for those children. I think the fact that this is happening and Taylor doesn't seem to be taking it very seriously is really a testament to unresolved, I don't even want to say mental health issues because I'm not one to diagnose anybody, but I think I personally find it extremely concerning that Taylor seems to have a lack of concern for what's going on. So if you don't know how she's responded, I wanted to go ahead and share it with you here. This is Taylor Frankie Paul's response to what we just read.
And that will be handled in the courtroom, not his. Some facts we do know is that I tried to have this sealed from the beginning.
I'm sorry, guys. Start from the beginning, maybe.
With me while I update you guys on some life updates, clearing up some allegations. If I have learned anything in 2026, false headlines, there's a lot of false information out there, and so therefore it doesn't affect me because it's not true. That being said, there are some things that are true as well. I'd like to give my peace of mind on whether anyone wants to hear it or not. Documents going around right now, and even more today, I believe. But it's kind of like a show for me where I don't need to go read them because I lived it. So,
but you do need to read them, Taylor, because it's alleging that you're hurting your children. So you need to go read it because you're not understanding the gravity of it all. You're not. You're not. It doesn't matter if it's your lived experience because you're incapable of taking any accountability for the harm that you're doing to yourself and your children, not to mention others. If everyone in your life is abandoning you, the entire cast of Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, your ex-husband, your ex-partner, a lot of your old fans, there's only one common denominator, okay? And it's not anybody else. It's you. You're the one that got The Bachelorette canceled. You're the one whose friends all stopped filming with her. You're the one whose partner got a divorce from you. You're the one who's at the center of this all. There's only one common denominator here. And apparently she's not taking any of this seriously, and that's really, really sad.
However it's perceived or what is said may be accurate, maybe not, could be exaggerated, twisted. What I do know is I lived it and I know the truth. Obviously, this is a much serious matter, so if there's something way off or misconstrued, that is something I'm taking up with my attorneys, and that will be handled in the courtroom, not his. Some facts we do know is that I tried to have this sealed from the beginning.
Of course you did, because this makes you look really bad, because you'd rather all of your behavior be hidden. And it's funny because it's like, okay, if she's truly not aware of what she's doing, then in my opinion, she wouldn't worry about anything being sealed, right? She wouldn't have to worry because it's all lies. It's not true. Make it public. If I was completely innocent, I'd be like, I want everyone to know. The evidence is going to, without a doubt, show that I'm innocent. But we're not seeing that. And this is regardless of whether or not she's also a victim in this, because in some ways I believe that she is. But two things can be true at once. And I've said this in my other videos about the situation. I do believe that there are multiple parties that are contributing to the toxicity of this situation. But there's one person with a felony and there's one person who is consistently deemed the aggressor.
People alluded to, oh, what is she trying to hide? This is all going to come to light either way, so it wasn't in protection of me, but honestly just to keep it sealed for the children. And again, this was something I asked for and was denied from the beginning. Those of you that don't think I've made progress in the courtroom, maybe you don't understand, but this is a very slow process, and I've actually made a lot of progress in the courtroom, considering this type of stuff does not happen overnight. It is a long process, so we didn't expect me to have I was aiming for in 1 or 2, 3 times. Like, this could be, unfortunately, a year.
But did you expect a DCFS case to be opened against you? Because I don't think so, girl.
I feel like I have made the progress that we have been aiming for, and that is just more time with my son. And speaking of the day of all the information being leaked was my first day and the longest period I will have my son. He's actually napping right now, but what are the odds? More.
This is something you'll see with Taylor a lot, and the more she doesn't take accountability in any of this, and the more she plays victim, the less I believe that this is all the other side or her enemy always trying to ruin days for her. Because in the past, it's been like, okay, it seems like Dakota wants to ruin her premiere. It seems like Dakota wants to ruin her press. Every time Taylor has something really good going for her that doesn't include him, it seems like he tries to sabotage it all. That's what a lot of people were saying when the video that we watched earlier in the spring, the violent one, was released the week that she was supposed to debut as the Bachelorette, and it caused the cancellation, and it kind of spurred all of this happening now. It was always the excuse, well, he's just doing this now because, like, I'm having my moment in the sun. I'm about to date a bunch of guys. I'm about to be even more and more and more famous. And she's using that same excuse today. Every time something bad happens to her, it happens to happen when she's having a good day or a good opportunity. So that means that it's always going to put her in the victim seat, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if I said that as clearly as I was hoping it would come out, but I think you guys get what I'm saying.
Things were leaked on the very day that I get him back for the next 5 days. Convenient, lots of information was leaked the day that I was granted the restraining order. I think that's been leaked is a very serious matter. Very.
So, what I've heard, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've read and the research I've done, it seems as though this is a case against Taylor. And I guess, it's a case with Mortensen too. But what people have been alleging is that, DCFS wouldn't have leaked this. So the only other option would be Taylor would have leaked it. But I guess since Dakota's involved, it's a possibility that he would have leaked it. I'm not 100% sure, but there is a group of people who believe that Taylor's lawyers actually released this in order to try to get ahead of it by dropping statements like, "Oh no, Taylor's fine with DCFS. She welcomes this investigation. It's only going to cause more structure for her and her children." But this doesn't seem like that same response. It seems a little contradictory to what her lawyers have been saying to like TMZ.
Private, so they are taking it seriously and looking into it. Let's talk about some things that were in the filings that were raised concerns. Let's start with the therapist that spoke on me. I had met a total, I believe, of 3 times. He had an issue with me going into my car when we had our virtual meetings, which is where I go when I'm trying to get away from like the noise. I've never had a therapist have an issue with that. If anything, it was like preferred because it was private. Honestly, don't care if people believe me or not. This is just for like my own peace of mind and my truth. Reached out to.
I'm confused. Is she like going into the car to take the call there? You know? Or is she just kind of like leaving her computer and then going to her car cuz she's like doesn't like that the therapist isn't validating her?
Letting her know that I was struggling, needed some extra support at the time, and she was like, "Oh, let me see when I can get you in next week." When you're in a panic attack, usually your therapist like wants more immediate attention, not.
I mean, I on one hand I agree. I do think that therapists, they get booked out in advance. So if she was to drop everything to support you, Taylor, she would probably have to leave other clients and disappoint them who might have had appointments with her. So I just don't feel like that's really a fair thing to say.
Next week when I can get you in. There was one time that I was crying and she was like, "Why are you crying?" And it made me feel very uncomfortable. I didn't take.
Therapists are supposed to ask you that question because they want you to process your feelings on your own, right? Maybe the tone that she had bothered Taylor, but it's not it's very, very normal for a therapist to say, "Oh, why are you what's bringing up this reaction from you? What are you feeling right now? Why are you crying?" Right? But who's to say it's just hard to believe everything Taylor says, but on the other hand, I wanna validate her, like, maybe she hasn't been with, like, a licensed therapist before and isn't aware that these therapists are meant to help you reflect, take accountability. or, empower you, give you tools to deal with when you become dysregulated.
My mental health seriously, which is far from the truth because I'm a huge advocate for mental health. So that honestly offended me because I've been very open with her, barely knowing her. I knew she just wasn't the fit. I do have a certified therapist. I have a life coach. So there are two other people that helped me in my life immensely. They just didn't have the EMDR training. Okay, let's get to the allegations that were kind of frustrating to me to hear. Change diapers.
So if she's doing EMDR therapy, that's a therapy that is supposed to unlock a lot of trauma. And in my opinion, you would be crying, and then the therapist would ask, "Why are you crying?" Because they want you to process that trauma with them in a safe space. So again, I just think it's unfair of Taylor to be mad that the therapist asked her why she was upset.
Once have I forced or made my daughter change diapers. If she ever wanted to, I let her. Likes to help. She's in that phase of like mommy's helper, wanting to do like the diaper bags, changing. If that
I think the difference though is like maybe not during a DCFS visit. Maybe you make that more clear, if your daughter is starting to and be like, "You're such a good helper, sweetie. Mommy can do it. Like, why don't you come help mommy? We can make some breakfast forever. Oh my gosh, you're such a big girl. Thank you so much for helping." Again, I'm not a mom, but I just feel like there are things you can do to show the DCFS, like, hey, this is something she likes to do. She has her dolls. She loves taking care of her dolls. She loves making them breakfast. And now that we have Ever, she loves to do that too.
is bad on me, then so be it. Another frustrating one to hear was an outburst during a visit. I do remember that day specifically, and I was emotional, and I was like, let me take a step outside. And so I went to go take a breather, which I think would be the correct thing to do.
Trust me, I cry all the time. I'm very in touch with my feelings. But it is very important, especially if you're being assessed by somebody, to try to give them the best of yourself. I think she got dysregulated because she was getting combative because the DCFS people were trying to get her to take accountability and were pointing out some flaws, and Taylor does not like to hear that. So I think their assessment was fair.
De-escalate emotions, like go outside to breathe. I would never leave someone in my home unintended or ask someone to lock up if my house locks up itself.
That doesn't matter. You don't storm out when there's a federal agency in your home assessing whether or not you're fit to parent your children. Because what they're thinking is she's already going to be on her best behavior. So we need to watch out for red flags that we are trained to detect, because they probably deal with BS from parents faking it all of the time, and they're able to see the red flags. That's their job. It's part of their job to determine whether a parent is fit to be a parent, is safe to be a parent. But if Taylor's being explosive and they're thinking, okay, so this is probably her best, what is she like when we are not there? Because if this is her at her best, it's probably a lot worse when we're not here watching.
I'm not here to sway anyone. I'm an open book. I will give you the ugly and the pretty if you know me. I don't claim to be this mother of the year of my faults. I also have a right to stick up for myself, give context of my life. I will admit I am a lot of things. I can confidently say you were to put any of my children up on a stand, they are choosing mom and mom's house every time. And I say that with full confidence because I love my children. They know that I love them. I'm at a loss of words on this experience.
Something my family used to say to each other a lot was, we fight because we love each other. And it took me a lot of years to realize that that's a super unhealthy dynamic to have. So love can look a lot different in different families and can be defined differently by different families, and that doesn't mean it's a healthy expression of love.
The most difficult thing I've ever been through. Some people think the best thing is getting offline. My decision is to show this process and how ugly it is and made mistakes. I will own that. I can see that. And my son is with me. I get my children back this week as soon as the other half of my test results come back in. First half came in clean, so we're just waiting on that second half, and hopefully we can move forward.
So I'm obviously going to be very curious about what you guys think about all of this. I think I've shared plenty of my own opinion. I just wish Taylor would take this more seriously because it doesn't seem like she is. So, with all that being said, please share your thoughts down below. As always, I don't want to victim shame or blame, and I want to reiterate that two things can be true at once. She could be a victim, but she's also clearly been, and we have evidence of her being a perpetrator. We have evidence of her being harmful, and the behavior she's exhibited online over the last several months is concerning for me personally. But I am very eager to hear your thoughts, your points of view. I know this is very nuanced and different since situations look I was about to say different situations look different, obviously. Every situation is going to look a little bit different. So if you've had a different experience or there's a perspective I've been missing, I would really appreciate if you respectfully shared it down below. And please know that my intention is very positive in sharing this video. I'm hoping to, educate and inspire empathy, but also encouragement, because I firmly believe that this behavior online that we're seeing from Taylor is indicative of someone who's a little bit unstable, and I don't think it's serving her right now. I'm all for people sharing their story and their truth, trust me, but it just seems misguided right now, and it feels ill-intentioned, and it doesn't seem authentic to me. But of course, again, eager to hear your perspective. Thank you guys all so much for joining me here today. I know it's a little bit different of a format, but I actually really liked it. This was really fun for me. And I have a brand new deep dive coming up for you this week. So look forward to that on Saturday. And with all that being said, please have a very lovely, safe, fun week. Stay safe out there, ask questions, and always stay skeptical. I'll see you in my next video very soon. Bye.